Hi guys, so this is video 10.1. It's going to step you through all of the activities on your playlist for lesson 10.1. So there's several that we're going to go through. Make sure you use the video to your advantage. Stop when you need to stop, rewind, exit out, and go do each activity as you need to if you don't want to watch it all in one time, and come back and you can fast forward to the part that you need. Okay. All right, so we're going to get started. This is for your GCF warm-up. Kind of a review from 5th and 6th grade talking about GCF. So GCF means the greatest common factor. In other words, what's the biggest number that will divide both numbers that you're given? So here we've got 24 and 4. So what's the biggest number that we could divide both of those by and still get an integer or a whole number? Okay. And the way we do that is you can make, some of you may know your multiplication tables and you just automatically see what that number is. Those of you that can't see that, there is a way to get around it, and there is a way to get work to do it. So what we can do is make a T-chart for all your numbers that you're given. So 24, we can make a T-chart. Remember, a T-chart, we're always starting with 1 in that number, and then check each number. 1, and then 2. Can I divide 24 by 2? Yes, and you get 12. 3, can you divide 24 by 3? Yes, and you will get 8. Then 4 is our next number. 24 divided by 4 is 6. That's a whole number. 5. It doesn't end with a 5 or a 0, so it's not going to divide and give you a whole number. And then our next number is 6, which is already in our table, so we can stop. Those are all the factors of 24. 4, start with our 1 and that number. Then 2 is the next number. 4 divided by 2 is 2. That's a repeated number, so you can stop. Okay, so now I have all the factors of 24 and all the factors of 4. Common factor means it's in both tables or both charts, right? So they both have a 1, they both have a 2, they both have a 4. Now, greatest common factor is the biggest one. Our biggest number that they shared was the 4. So that's our answer, 4. Right. Number 7, 40 and 2. Make a T-chart for 40 and make a T-chart for 2. Okay, 40. Now, if you really just don't like making these T-charts and these multiplication facts are just not your strong suit, keep working on them, keep practicing. It will help you in life just to know them. Makes things a lot faster. If you don't know them and you need a help right now, you can use a calculator to help you. So like in the know, there's an announcement with the words that say in the know, there's a document. In that document gives you some calculator options for home. Calculator X is one of those options for if you have an iPhone or if you have the App Store. There's also WebEmu. Desmos is an app, I believe now, or you can just go to your web browser. I have Safari or Chrome. Some of you have Chrome. You can go on there and type in desmos.com and you go to the graphing calculator on Desmos. From there, you get a calculator that looks very much like your graphing calculators at school. Okay, so when you get in there, you're going to go to y equals. On Desmos, you're automatically at a y equals. And then you're going to put in the number that you want to divide. So we do 40. And then you always do divide by x. So you have 40, your number divided by x. Then go to your table, second graph. And on your table, wow, that's really down there. You want to look for the whole numbers, right? So start with 0 because we just want positive numbers. We're not going to worry about negative numbers right now. So you have 1 and 40, 2 and 20. I'm going to move this a little bit so I can write. And then 3, you see there's a decimal number, so I'm not going to write that one down. 4 and 10, 5 and 8, 6, there's a decimal number, 7, there's a decimal number, and then we get to 8 again. 8 is already on our T-chart, so we don't have to write any more down. We're done. Okay, so those of you that need a little more help making those T-charts, there's your help using your calculator and the Y equals button. Remember to go to your table, which is second, then graph, second graph. All right, now 2, that's a prime number, so it's just 1 in itself, 1 and 2. Greatest common factor, so we need to find the common factors. They share a 1, they share a 2. That's all there is to share with this little one, right? So finding your common factors, always start with a smaller number, and then you don't have to go through all the big numbers. All right, and the biggest one they share is that 2, so that's our answer, 2. Okay, I'm going to jump down to this bottom one, 6 and 5. 6, make a T-chart. 5, make a T-chart. I have 1 and 6. 2 times 3, 3. 3 is already there, so I'm done. 5 is a prime number, so it's just 1 in itself. And then I'm going to look for common factors. They share a 1, no 2, no 5. This is the smaller one, right? No 5. So all they share is that 1. GCF is 1. Okay, so that will help you get through your warm-up GCF, and if you go to your playlist, that link will automatically take you to a Google form to ask you some questions about GCF. All right, next on your playlist, down the column, you have GCF monomials. Okay, now this one, I'm going to give you a video on how to turn this in. The link on your playlist just links you to this worksheet. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of these with you, and then I will let you know which problems to finish after that. We're not completing all of these, so make sure you pay attention and you get your numbers and you read your assignment when you turn this in so you're not doing extra work. All right, so when we have a monomial means I have a variable, right? So I have a number, a coefficient, and I have the variable part. There can be more than one variable. As you see here, there's x's and y's and x's and y's and z's. So some of those have exponents, some of them don't, but that's a monomial. I have a number part and a variable part. Okay. So to find the GCF of a monomial, we're going to do the same thing we did with our numbers. Find the GCF of the numbers, or the coefficients, and then we're going to find the smallest exponent of each shared variable, because they have to be common, right? So the ones that they have the same variable. All right, so number 1, we're going to do a T-chart for each number. We have 4, 16, and 8. We want to find the greatest common factor, or the GCF. So 4, we have 1 and 4, 2 times 2, double numbers, so we stop. 16, there's 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 3, can't divide by 3 and get a whole number. 4 times 4, there's a double number, so we stop. 8, there's 1 and 8, 2 times 4 is 8, 3, 8 divided by 3 is going to give you a decimal, 4 is our next number. It's already in the table or the T-chart, so we stop. Okay, now common factors. They all have a 1, and I'm starting with this 4 because it's the smallest number. They all have a 2. 2 is already there. What about a 4? Do they all have a 4? 4, 4, 4. They all have a 4. Okay, now that's all the factors in our 4 T-chart. That's all I have to really look for. Our biggest one that we matched was this 4. So our GCF number part is 4. Now we want to look at our variables. Which ones do they share? Well, this one only has an X. There's an X, and there's an X. So they all share X. That's going to be in our GCF. But what's the smallest exponent? Well, the smallest exponent on the X is a 2. And then this one does not have Y's, does not have Z's, so our GCF is 4x squared. All right, next example, number 2. We have 10, 5, and 20. Now again, some of you are going to see what these are immediately, and you can skip this T-chart part. But for those of you that need help, this is the way to get help. And remember, there's the calculator option as well. Okay, so 10, we have 1 in 10. 2 times 5 is 10. 3 gives you a decimal. 4 gives you a decimal. That gives us to 5, which is on the table already. So we're done. 5 is just 1 times 5, prime number, so that's it. 20, 1 times 20. 2, 20 divided by 2 is 10. 3 is going to give you a decimal. 20 divided by 4 is 5. And then 5 is our next number, which is already there, so we're done and we can stop. Okay, common factors. I'm going to start with the 5 because it's the smallest. They share a 1. Do they share a 5? 5, 5, 5. Yes, they do. The biggest one was 5. So there's our number part in the GCF. And then our shared variables, m, m, m. Yes, they all have an m. And then look for your smallest exponent. Have 4, 6, 5. 4 is the smallest, so m is going to get the exponent of 4. Now n's, n, n. Yes, they all have an n, so n is going to be here also. What's our smallest exponent? I have 3, 4, and 6. Smallest one was 3, so I'm going to give it an exponent of 3. All right, last example I'm going to do is number 4. Okay, there's no number on this a to the 5th power. So remember, there's a 1 hiding when there's no number. There's a 12, and then again, there's no number here. So remember, there's a 1 hiding. Now, hint, if there's a 1, your automatic GCF is 1. You have to write the 1? No, but you could write the 1 just to tell yourself, I already did the number, I'm done with that part. And then we go to the variables. We have A, and A. So they all share an A. What's your smallest exponent? There's a 5, 5, and a 6. 5 is the smallest. Okay, now this one has a C, but these other two do not have C's, so they're not in common, they're not shared, and this is our answer. 1a to the 5th, or you could leave that 1 off, and a to the 5th is our GCF. All right, now when you are done with this monomial worksheet, you're only going to do number 6, 8, and 10. Okay, take a picture of these. You can write them on paper. You can print this off from your computer if you're able to. Take a picture and then send it. So attach that to your assignment that you'll find in Google Classroom. Okay, I'm gonna let my dog out real quick because she's whining at me. And then we're going to go over these notes real quick. All right, so finding the GCF of numbers, then finding GCF of monomials, those are all baby steps towards this main idea that we're going to do, factoring out the GCF. So factoring is just the opposite, the reverse of distributive property. Okay, so we've seen problems like this where we worked with a distributive property, and this is what we started with, and then we distributed the 5x to the 4x, the 5x squared to the 4x to the 4th power. We multiply those big numbers to get 20, and then we add the exponents, and we got x to the 6th. Then we distribute that 5x squared to the 3. We multiplied the big numbers to get 15, and then we add the exponents 2 plus there's 0 there, so that's 2. And we get an answer of 20x to the 6th power plus, because we're using that symbol, and this is a positive 15x squared. Okay, so we're used to going from here to here. We're going to do backwards. We're going to start with this answer, and we're going to work backwards. We're going to find what's the GCF. What is this number out here that I can pull out? Okay, so we use what we did in our monomial part. We find the GCF of both terms. So we find the GCF of 20 and 15. And I forgot to mention the playlist, I believe, gives you a link to these notes. You can print these out and write with me. You can take notes on notebook paper. Remember, the importance of notes is for you to have something to go back and look at, although you have this video to go back and look at. Also, just writing this down as you go helps keep that in your mind a lot better. Okay. All right, so we're finding the GCF of these terms. So 20 and 15, make a T-chart. 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 3, no, 4 times 5, and 5 is here. We're done. 15, we do 1 and 15. 2, that's not even, so no. 3 times 5 is 15. 4 gives you a decimal. Then we go to 5. 5 is there. So we're done. All right, common factors. We have 1. We're going to use this one because it has less factors. 3, no, 3. A 5, yes. 15, no. So our biggest factor that they shared was this 5. And then the variable. They both have an x, so that's going to be part of our answer. And our smallest exponent was this 2. So our GCF is 5x squared. Okay, so to factor this out from our question now, we're going to divide each term. So we take our first term and divide it by our GCF. So we divide those big numbers. 20 divided by 5 is 4. And then when we're dividing, we have to subtract the exponents. So 6 minus 2 is 4. And then we have to divide the GCF from our second term. So we divide 15 and 5 to get 3. Subtract our exponents on the variables. We do 2 minus 2 is 0, which means it just cancels, and we end up with a 3. And then when we divide, our answer is 4x to the 4th plus 3. So when we factor it out, we end up with our GCF out here on the outside. And in parentheses, we have what's left after dividing. I call this the leftover. Okay, so we have GCF and leftovers in the parentheses. All right, so if we want to factor using the greatest common factor of this polynomial, first we have to find the GCF of each term. So we want to find the GCF of 8, 12, and 4. Okay, you can go through that process. I'm going to save some time on this video. And those of you that can already see it, you know that the answer is 4. So our answer number-wise is 4. And then we look and see they all do have a y. So y is part of that GCF. But our smallest exponent, remember there's a 1 hiding here. 1 is the smallest. 1 stays invisible. Okay, so we find the GCF, which is 4y, and we're going to place it outside of the parentheses. And then we have our parentheses. And we're going to take each term and divide by that GCF. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. And then our variables, the exponents, we subtract. 5 minus 1 is 4. Bring down your sign. 12 divided by 4 is 3. Y 3 minus 1 is 2. 4, bring down your plus. 4 divided by 4 is 1. You can write that in if you want, or you can leave it off. The y's, 1 minus 1 is 0, so our variable cancels out. Now, it's a good thing I wrote the 1 there because then I have just nothing, right? So our answer is our GCF, parentheses, and then our leftovers. So we have 2y to the 4th minus 3y squared plus 1. Okay, now generating the last term of this expression is where many students make a mistake. This is very important. Okay, you're going to see this a lot when we go into our next step of factoring. In order to get a plus 1, 1 has to divide 4y by 4y. Some students think it's 0. It's not 0. It's not blank. It's very important to say that it's 1 because we have that place there to fill in. Okay, so be careful with those. If it cancels completely, if they're exactly the same, 4y and 4y, remember that's a 1, not a 0. Okay, now let's factor by the greatest common factor of this polynomial. Okay, so we're going to find the number 14, 24, and 30. They're all even numbers. And other than that, it's 2 times 7, 2 times 6, 2 times 15. They don't have any other common factors there. 7, 6, and 15 do not, because 7's prime. Okay, so 2 is our number, and then they all have a z. So we're taking our smallest exponent, which is 3. So 2z to the 3rd power, or 2z cubed, is our GCF, which means it goes on the outside of our parentheses. And then we divide each term by that GCF. So we get 18z to the 8th divided by our GCF. 14 divided by 2 is 7. Subtract your exponents. 8 minus 3 is 5. Bring down your plus. 24 divided by 2 is 12. Z, subtract 7 minus 3 is 4. Bring down the minus. 30 divided by 2 is 15. Z, 3 minus 3 is 0, so our variable canceled. So our answer is all of this, our GCF times the leftovers. Minus 15. Okay. I'm gonna leave this one off just to save some time on the video. Okay, down here on your notes, there's 2 questions. There's a question in Google Classroom for you to go in and show me your answers and show me your work on here. Okay, so go in and answer those questions on Google Classroom. Right, remember Zoom tutorials are available every day from 10 to 11 and 2 to 3. You have lots of opportunity for help. You can comment on Google Classroom. You can email me, stephanie.johnson@saisd.org. And I think there's also somewhere in Google Classroom where it gives you the option to email your teacher. You might need to check that out. And then Remind. Remind is also there. You can text me. Okay, but if it takes a lot of work, Zoom is the best option. So keep that available. I know you don't like it because it's the video. Some of you don't like it. So that's okay. I don't like it either, but we're living with it, okay? All right. Please ask lots of questions. Keep up the great work, and I will be ready to see all of you as soon as we are done quarantining.